Tonight, let's drift back to a city made of light. To Florence, where marble sang, poets dreamed, and one man tried to hold beauty in his hands. His name was Lorenzo de Medici. To the world, he was Il Magnifico, the Magnificent. But beneath the silks, the palaces, and the painted ceilings, he was something quieter. A man who loved the city so deeply that it became part of his soul. You'll hear of the feasts and the whispers, the art and the betrayal, the nights filled with laughter, and the mornings that smelled of ash. You'll walk beside him through candlelit halls, across courtyards blooming with orange trees, into cathedrals where faith and power blurred into one fragile dream. Don't worry about remembering names or dates. Just breathe. Let Florence unfold around you, her bells, her river, her golden light. Let the story move slowly, like a brush across wet paint. Because tonight, you're not just hearing history. You're inside it. And when the final bell fades, maybe you'll understand why beauty, once truly seen, never lets us go. Now, close your eyes. Let's return to the world of the magnificent. You wake up to the sound of church bells echoing across Florence. It's 1397. The air is heavy with wood smoke, olive oil, and something metallic, like the scent of coins that have passed through too many hands. You can almost taste the dust of commerce drifting from the Mercato Vecchio. In the narrow streets below, vendors shout over one another, the language of money louder than any prayer. Your name is Giovanni di Bicci de Medici, though that name means very little, for now. You are the son of a wool merchant, born with neither title nor land. Your family has debts, not fortunes. And yet, as you pull on your worn leather boots and open the shutters, you can see the Duomo rising above the rooftops. Unfinished, impossible, daring. Florence itself feels like a dream refusing to stay asleep. Everywhere you look, something new is being built. New workshops, new art, new ambitions. But behind every painting, every marble statue, there is always the same thing. Money, and the men who control it. You work in a small money-changing stall near the Ponte Vecchio. Day after day you exchange coins from France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire. Gold florins, silver ducats, copper pennies, each stamped with the faces of kings and popes who have never walked these streets. And yet, when you weigh them on your little brass scale, you realize something extraordinary. Power is just metal until someone believes in it. Do you believe in it? Or do you believe in the men who decide what it's worth? Each coin carries a story, wars fought, marriages arranged, promises broken. You listen as merchants boast about distant trade routes, as priests murmur about new cathedrals, as soldiers gossip about who owes what to whom. You say very little. You just listen. Because you've learned the first secret of Florence. Information travels faster than gold. At night, when the market's quiet and the bells mark vespers, you sit by candlelight, counting coins that are not yet yours, thinking of futures that no one else can see. You make careful loans, tiny ones, to men of the church who will one day rise higher. You lend without arrogance, collect without cruelty. And in doing so, you build something invisible. One evening, a bishop comes to your stall. His robes are frayed, his ring dull. He wants a loan to purchase new vestments before his visit to Rome. You weigh his coin, study his face, and see not desperation, but opportunity. You lend him the money quietly. Weeks later, you receive a letter sealed with Vatican wax. Payment and gratitude. Word spreads like perfume. A man who can lend to the church, they whisper, can lend to anyone. Do you ever wonder what it feels like to step beyond your station? To walk the same corridors as nobles and priests, knowing they owe you, if not obedience, then dependence? In the months that follow, you move your stall from the market to a modest stone building on Via Porta Rossa. There is no sign, no emblem. Only silence. But inside that silence, the first heartbeat of an empire begins to thrum. Outside, the bells of Santa Maria del Fiore toll again, echoing against the half-built dome. The city hums with ambition, and you, Giovanni, feel something stirring that has nothing to do with prayer. You close the shutters, extinguish the candle, and whisper to yourself, let others build cathedrals of stone. I will build one of trust. The night deepens. Florence sleeps. And beneath its dreams, gold begins to move. The candle smoke still lingers in your little banking room. The shutters are closed, but the sound of hoofbeats echoes faintly from the cobblestones outside. Florence never truly sleeps. It only changes rhythm. Merchants by day, whispers by night. You run your fingers across the smooth wood of your desk, tracing invisible patterns in the thin layer of gold dust that clings to everything you touch. Each fleck catches the faint light, tiny stars trapped in the dark. You can almost hear them hum, a soft metallic prayer to fortune. Every coin you've ever handled has left something behind. A residue of ambition. A ghost of power. By morning, the room smells of copper and ink. Letters arrive, sealed in wax, folded with precision. From Rome, from Venice, from Bruges. Men of trade and faith all writing to you, Giovanni de Medici, the quiet banker who listens more than he speaks. You open one letter carefully. It's from a Florentine merchant who needs funds to send a caravan across the Alps. Another from a monastery, requesting discreet handling of tithes owed to the papal court. Each word feels heavy, like a key unlocking a door you didn't know existed. Do you ever wonder what it feels like to hold the strings of other people's dreams? To know that a single number in your ledger could change the fate of a kingdom or a cathedral. You don't crave luxury. Not yet. Your satisfaction lies in the quiet click of the abacus, in the rhythm of ledgers balancing like verses in a psalm. Money to you is not a thing, it's a current. And if you learn how to read the current, you can move faster than anyone else. Across the river, guild leaders argue in candlelit halls. They think power lies in titles and family crests, in old names carved above doorways. You smile quietly to yourself. They have no idea that the true power of Florence is being written right now in the margins of your ledger. A knock at the door. Your assistant enters, young, nervous, holding a sealed pouch. Inside are coins minted in Naples, duller than the Florentine florin but worth more to the right man in Rome. You weigh them in your hand and think, value is not truth, it's belief. Outside, dawn spills over the rooftops. The city smells of bread baking, iron cooling, and something sweet. Hope, maybe. You step to the window and watch the light climb the unfinished dome. Every stone of that cathedral is being lifted by invisible hands. By credit, by faith, by numbers inked on parchment. Florence is a city built on debt and dreams. And you, Giovanni, are learning how to turn both into foundations that never crack. Can you feel it? That quiet pulse under everything, the heartbeat of a city that trusts you? It's fragile, yes, but all great things begin fragile. By midday, you walk to the market square, blending with the crowd. You hear gossip about the Albizzi family, powerful, dangerous, suspicious of you. They rule Florence through politics and bloodlines. You rule through patience and silence. Different weapons, same war. You pause beside a stall of wool and silk, the scent of dye sharp in your nose. A nobleman rides past, his cloak brushing your shoulder. He doesn't even glance your way. And that, you think, is your greatest advantage. The powerful never look down. Not until it's too late. You return home as dusk falls, light a single candle, and write 3 words in your ledger's corner. Faith before fortune. Because gold is heavy, but faith moves faster. Outside, thunder rolls in the distance, echoing down the Arno. You listen to it, steady and unafraid, as if the storm itself were counting with you. Somewhere in that sound, between each rumble, you can almost hear your own name changing. Becoming more than a name, becoming a house. Tomorrow, Florence will whisper it for the first time. Medici. The morning air is cold enough to bite. Florence smells of rain and iron, freshly beaten swords from the blacksmith's quarter. You pull your cloak tighter and step into the street, the sound of your boots swallowed by the hum of the city. Bells ring in the distance, low and slow, the sound of promises made to heaven. You're on your way to meet a man of the church. Not for confession but for business. Inside the cloister, incense drifts like fog. A bishop sits waiting, his fingers wrapped around a rosary that glints in the candlelight. His robes are immaculate, but his eyes tell another story. Worry, exhaustion, calculation. You bow not too low. You are humble but not lesser. He speaks softly. The church, he explains, needs funds for a new commission, a series of paintings for the chapel walls. The Pope himself has requested them. The coffers, however, are temporarily restrained. You nod, listening. You always listen first. Then you ask the question no one else dares. How much faith does the Holy See expect to borrow? The bishop blinks, uncertain whether you're mocking him. But you're not. To you, faith is currency, the oldest and most valuable form of credit. You open your ledger. The pages smell of wax and ink. The numbers you write are not just sums. They are bridges between worlds. The church has relics and land. You have gold and patience. Together you can make something divine and profitable. Do you ever think about that? How heaven and money have always shared the same language. One promises salvation, the other security. Both depend on trust. You set the terms quietly. No interest spoken aloud. The church must not appear indebted. But favors can be redeemed anywhere. A bishop today, a cardinal tomorrow, perhaps a pope one day soon. He agrees. The ink dries. A transaction becomes a covenant. When he leaves, you sit for a moment, staring at the wax seal cooling on the parchment. The flame flickers, bending toward you as if acknowledging what you've just done. You've loaned money to God's own messenger. Outside, the rain has stopped. Florence shines under the new sun, rooftops glistening like minted coins. You walk home through the narrow alleys, heart steady, mind alive. Every footstep feels like the beat of a drum announcing something unseen. You pause by the river and watch the reflection of the Duomo in the water. It's incomplete, still missing its dome. So are you. You think of your father, of debts unpaid, of nights spent counting coppers in the dark. And you realize that the only way to rise above fortune is to build one that others depend on. A gust of wind scatters a handful of leaves across the bridge. You close your eyes and listen to the sound. It reminds you of coins falling onto a wooden table. It reminds you of prayers whispered for profit. It reminds you that your name, Medici, is beginning to echo beyond Florence. Can you feel it, Giovanni? The city is starting to turn its head when you pass. Not to honor you. Not yet. But to wonder how a man so quiet could move so much gold without ever raising his voice. You return to your house, light a single candle, and dip your quill. Another entry. Another risk. Another promise. And beneath it, you write a small note to yourself. To lend is to believe. Tomorrow you will wake to find that Rome believes in you too. The letters multiply. Stacks of parchment sealed in red wax fill your desk. From Venice. From Rome. From London and Bruges. Each envelope carries not just words but opportunity, new clients, new debts, new webs to weave. Florence hums outside your window, unaware that its heartbeat is slowly sinking to yours. The bells ring, merchants shout, apprentices run through the alleys carrying ledgers too heavy for their age. And above it all, the unfinished dome of the cathedral stretches toward heaven, an open promise between God and men who dare too much. You have dared too much too, but quietly, always quietly. Your assistants whisper about it sometimes. They say you are everywhere and nowhere, that your coins travel faster than horses, that your letters reach Rome before riders even leave Florence. You let them believe what they will. Truth, after all, is another form of currency. At night, you study the map nailed above your desk. Small pins mark the cities that now hum with your influence. Pisa, Venice, Avignon. Each pin connected by thin red threads. To anyone else, it looks like a merchant's curiosity. To you, it's something else. A nervous system. A living body of gold and paper. You think of your father again, how he used to count coins until his fingers bled. He believed wealth lived in vaults. But you've learned it lives in motion. Do you feel it too, listener? That faint hum in your chest. The idea that power doesn't need to be seen to exist? You begin to send trusted men across Europe. One to Venice to handle trade with the East. Another to Rome to manage the Vatican's growing appetite for credit. You write them letters sealed with the Medici crest, your words simple: build quietly. Trust no one. Speak only through numbers. Within months, payments begin to flow like rivers converging to one sea. You no longer hold the coins yourself, but you hold something far greater, the belief of others that you will never fail them. You know what that means. You have become a name. The Pope's emissary arrives one afternoon. His robe glows crimson in the light slanting through your window. He thanks you for discretion, for faith, for patience. You bow, accept his blessing. But even as he speaks, your mind is elsewhere, calculating, planning, building. When he leaves, the scent of incense lingers in your study. You realize it smells the same as the wax sealing your letters. Faith and finance, two forms of devotion sharing one fragrance. Florence begins to change. New buildings rise, funded by unseen gold. Workshops expand. Artists find patrons. And behind it all, your ledgers whisper, each number a secret prayer. Do you think it's strange, Giovanni? That you, a man without a title, now hold the fate of princes in your quill? That your silence commands more power than the loudest noble in the square? You never raise your voice. You never boast. But when the Duke of Milan delays a payment, your letter arrives first. A single page. No threats. Just a reminder, God forgives. Ledgers don't. The payment arrives within the week. By the end of the year, you've built more than a bank. You've built something unseen, an empire made of trust, loyalty, and distance. Every city that owes you becomes part of your map. Every debt repaid strengthens the invisible threads between you and the world. At dusk, you stand on the Ponte Vecchio watching sunlight turn the Arno gold. Your reflection ripples beside the cathedral's unfinished dome, and you realize, Florence may never know your face, but it will live inside your shadow. Can you hear it? The murmur of coins moving through the veins of Europe, faster than sound, faster than prayer? That's your doing. That's the rhythm of your creation. You whisper softly into the river breeze. Power is not what you hold in your hands. It's what others believe you hold. The last light fades. The dome remains unfinished, but your empire, your invisible empire, is already whole. Tomorrow you will teach your son to hear that rhythm too. Florence has changed again. You can feel it in the air, the pace of footsteps, the weight of voices, the hush that falls when you walk past. You are no longer the merchant's son counting coppers by candlelight. You are the man the city whispers about. Giovanni de Medici. Your house on Via Larga looks modest from the street, plain walls, narrow arches, nothing to draw attention. But inside it's different. Quiet corridors lead to rooms lined with ledgers and maps, sealed documents and coded letters. No frescoes, no marble statues, no gold on the doors. Just silence. Because you've learned that silence is the strongest armor money can buy. Cosimo is standing by the window. Your son. His eyes are sharper than yours were at that age. He watches everything, the streets, the people, the patterns and the noise of Florence. You see yourself in him, but also something new, ambition without fear. You tell him, wealth is a bird that must never be caged where others can see it. Build walls around it, not windows. He nods, though you can tell he doesn't yet understand. No one truly does until they've lost something worth hiding. At your desk, you unroll a map. Lines stretch from Florence to Rome, to Venice, to Avignon. Your invisible empire glows in the candlelight like a web spun from fire. You trace the red threads with your finger the same way a priest might trace a cross. Do you ever wonder, listener, how something so vast can remain unseen? How an empire can grow without banners, without armies, only with ink, trust, and silence? The city outside celebrates itself. Weddings, markets, festivals. Florence believes it rules its own destiny. But you know better. Every new palace, every commission, every war loan, they all begin here inside the house with no windows. You've taught Cosimo the art of discretion. When to lend, when to listen, when to let pride speak for the other man. The Albizzi still watch you, still whisper your name like a curse. But you've learned to smile and bow, to make enemies comfortable before you outlive them. At night, you walk the empty hallways. The candles flicker. The air smells faintly of wax and dust. You pause before your ledgers, the heartbeat of your world. So many lives inside those numbers. Dukes, bishops, merchants, all strung together like pearls on a thread you alone can see. Cosimo follows you quietly. You hand him the key to the archive room. A small gesture, but you both feel the weight of it. This, you say softly, is how you keep what we've built. You don't protect the gold. You protect the knowledge. He looks at you, eyes steady. And if they try to take it? Then you let them have what they can see, you reply, and hide what they can't. Do you feel the power in that lesson? That strange comfort of invisibility? The world cannot destroy what it cannot find. Days pass. The city grows louder. Florence prepares for another war between noble families. You grow quieter. The years have taken their toll, hands trembling slightly as you write, eyes straining in the low light. But your name, your network, your legacy, they've all grown stronger. On your final morning at the desk, you dip the quill, pause, and write the last line in your ledger. Faith must be inherited like fortune. You close the book, place the key in Cosimo's hand, and smile. Outside, church bells toll for morning mass. You listen, not to the sound of worship, but to the rhythm beneath it. The rhythm you created. The heartbeat of a city that runs on trust, not prayer. Can you hear it too, listener? That faint thrum of something eternal just below the noise? That's the sound of survival. As the candle burns low, you realize you've built exactly what you dreamed of. A cathedral of silence, standing strong while others chase glory. Tomorrow it will belong to him. The candlelight is still warm when you open your father's ledger. His handwriting fills the pages like quiet music, measured, precise, eternal. The ink is brown with age, but the lessons are still alive. Outside, Florence wakes. Bells echo across the rooftops, merchants call to one another, and the Arno gleams gold beneath the rising sun. For the first time, this city belongs to you. Not by law, not by crown, but by debt, by faith, by name. You are Cosimo de Medici, son of Giovanni, heir to a kingdom with no walls. You step into the street wearing a simple cloak. People nod as you pass, unsure whether to bow. They know your name but not your power. That's how your father would have wanted it. At the market square, a nobleman waves from his carriage. The Albizzi crest, two golden chains crossing over a red field, gleams on the door. Your family's oldest rivals. They smile, but it's the kind of smile that hides a blade. Florence is a city of courtesies and traps. You nod politely and move on. There's no need to fight them yet. For now, you're still learning the shape of power. In the Medici offices, your clerks rise as you enter. The scent of parchment and wax fills the air. Ledgers lie open, filled with transactions that cross borders and empires. You run your hand across them, feeling the pulse beneath the ink. Do you ever wonder, listener, what it feels like to hold invisible power? To rule a city that doesn't know it's being ruled? Your father built this network brick by brick, letter by letter. You will not let it fade. But you see something he never did. Florence itself, restless and alive, hungry for change. Artists come to you seeking patrons. Architects whisper of domes too wide to build. Priests request loans for wars they'll never fight. And through it all, you listen, you weigh, you decide. One afternoon, an emissary from Rome visits your office. He carries a message from the Pope, an invitation and a temptation. The Vatican wants your bank to handle indulgence payments across Europe. A fortune in silver and gilt. You agree, but cautiously. Because your father's greatest rule still echoes in your mind. The church must never own you. Serve it, but never kneel. Do you think you could live by that rule? To walk beside power without being consumed by it? At night, you visit your father's grave in the family chapel. The air smells of cold stone and lilies. You kneel not to pray but to speak softly. I will keep it hidden, you whisper. The walls without windows. The silence. The candle beside you flickers. The flame bends as if in agreement. You remember his voice, calm and certain. Wealth that shows itself dies young. Outside, thunder gathers over the city. Florence glows under the storm, marble gleaming, banners whipping, hearts beating fast. You stand beneath the rain and realize something profound. The Medici name no longer hides in the shadows. It breathes through the city's veins. But with visibility comes danger. Already you can sense eyes on you, the Albizzi, the Puzzis, the guilds who see your quiet dominance and fear what it means. You turn toward the Palazzo Vecchio, where Florence's rulers hold council. Its tower looms against the storm like a warning. Someday you'll walk through those doors not as a petitioner, but as a master. Do you feel it, Cosimo? That trembling line between caution and destiny? The same line your father walked his whole life? Lightning flashes above the dome, unfinished, daring, magnificent. Florence is a city built by men who believed in the impossible. Now it's your turn. You return home, rain dripping from your cloak, and place your father's key back on the desk. Beside it, you write a new line in his ledger. We are no longer hidden. Let them see but never understand. Outside, the thunder fades. Florence sleeps again, unaware that its next ruler isn't wearing a crown, but a quiet smile. Tomorrow the war of patience will begin. Florence glows beneath the noon sun, but the warmth feels thin, like gold leaf stretched too far. You stand on the balcony of your office watching the people below. Merchants haggle. Priests hurry between chapels. Artists carry canvases still wet with paint. The city looks alive, almost innocent. But you know better. Florence is a stage, and today the masks are smiling. You've been invited to dine at the Palazzo of the Albizzi. A peace offering, they said. You know what that means? A trap dressed in civility. The table stretches the length of the hall, covered in silk and silver. Candles flicker against polished mirrors, doubling every face. Rinaldo degli Albizzi greets you with open arms. His voice is smooth as velvet, but his eyes never smile. Cosimo, he says, Florence thrives because good men share their fortunes with her. You will, of course, continue your father's generosity. You raise your cup slowly. Florence has never gone hungry in our care. Laughter ripples down the table, light, polite, false. Do you ever wonder, listener, how power sounds when it laughs? How the softest chuckle can feel sharper than a blade? You know they resent you. Your bank has become the city's bloodstream, flowing through guilds, churches, and palaces alike. Every coin they spend, every loan they take bears your name even if they refuse to speak it. They can't attack your gold, so they attack your silence. After the feast, Albizzi leans closer, his breath smelling faintly of wine and threat. Florence is not Rome, he murmurs. Here, ambition must wear humility. Remember that, Medici. You smile the same way your father once did. And yet, both cities kneel before the same god. He blinks just once. The game is on. That night, as rain slicks the streets, you walk home through the empty square. The stones gleam beneath the lanterns, and the bells toll somewhere far away, low and distant, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. You think of your father's house with no windows, of his rule to stay unseen. But you can't hide forever. The Albizzi have drawn you into the light, and Florence is watching. Can you feel it? That quiet danger between admiration and envy? It's the price of being indispensable. A week later, whispers begin to spread through the city. They say you hoard the city's wealth. They say the Medici Bank launders faith into profit. They say the Republic belongs to you, not the people. You do not respond. You lend more money to the guilds. You fund new workshops. You sponsor a young architect named Brunelleschi, whose mad dream of building a dome might just redefine heaven itself. When words fail, you build. Because architecture, unlike gossip, endures. One afternoon, a trusted friend warns you, they are gathering evidence, Cosimo. The Albizzi mean to exile you. You close your ledger, steady your voice. Let them. A banker knows exile better than they know loyalty. Do you think that's bravery or foresight? Maybe both. Because you've already moved the gold. Every coin, every note, every promise now lives outside Florence, safe in the hands of men who owe you everything. If they banish you, the city will choke on its own debts. You've built Florence like a clock, and only you hold the key that winds it. That night, you sit alone in your father's study. The candle burns low. The walls hum with memory. You whisper to the silence, they will take the man, not the house. Outside, thunder rolls across the Tuscan hills. Somewhere in that sound, you hear the faint laughter of destiny. It sounds almost like your father's. And when dawn comes, the guards will knock on your door. They will call it justice. But you will know it by its truer name, recognition. The cell is smaller than you imagined. Stone walls slick with moisture. A single window too high to see through. Florence has taken your name, your seat, your freedom. But it has not taken your patience. They came at dawn just as you expected. Rinaldo degli Albizzi's men, cloaked in authority, their eyes rehearsed for pity. You did not struggle. You did not plead. You simply gathered your papers, sealed your letters, and walked between them like a man leaving a meeting that had ended early. Do you know what true power feels like, listener? It's not the applause in crowded halls. It's the silence that follows after they think they've defeated you. Your exile begins with a slow journey across the Tuscan hills. Autumn wind stirs the olive groves. The city fades behind you, its domes and towers turning to silhouettes against a copper sky. For the first time in your life, Florence looks small. They call it punishment. You call it time. In Venice, you rent a modest house near the Rialto. From the balcony, you watch the water turn gold at dusk. Boats pass quietly beneath, carrying merchants and secrets alike. And you begin to write letters. To bankers in Rome. To merchants in Bruges. To agents in Geneva and London. Each letter is a quiet move on the chessboard your enemies can't see. Florence will return to me, you write, when Florence remembers it cannot breathe without credit. And it's true. The Albizzi control the city, but you control the debt. The guilds that trade wool and silk, the workshops that need gold to buy their dyes. They all depend on the Medici Bank. Even from exile, your reach extends through contracts and trust older than any decree. Do you ever wonder how a man can rule a city he hasn't seen in years? Not through armies, not through crowns, but through promises written in ink and sealed in faith. Months pass, then a year. News travels slowly, but every rumor carries your name. Florence's economy falters. The Albizzi overreach. their allies grow nervous. Whispers spread through the merchant houses. Cosimo's absence costs more than his presence. You attend Mass in Venice one morning, hood drawn low. A letter slips into your hand. It bears no seal, only 2 words written in haste. Come home. The next night, you travel by carriage through the fog. Each turn of the wheel feels like a heartbeat counting backward through time. When you reach the city gates of Florence, dawn is breaking. The guards do not stop you. They bow. Inside, the air smells the same: dust, olive smoke, the faint sweetness of wet stone. But something has shifted. Crowds fill the streets not to condemn you, but to watch you return. Some cheer. Others stay silent. But all understand, the balance has changed. In the council chamber, Rinaldo degli Albizzi sits pale and rigid, surrounded by allies who no longer look at him. You bow just enough to remind them you are a citizen, not a king. Then you speak softly. I bring back not vengeance but credit. Let Florence rise again. No one dares interrupt. The silence feels sacred, heavy with relief. That night, back in your father's study, you unlock the archive chest. The ledgers are untouched, waiting. You trace the names inside: families, debts, favors. The web still holds. Do you feel it, listener? The strange calm that comes after the storm? The kind of peace that only power reclaimed can give? You pour a glass of wine, raise it to the empty room, and whisper. Exile was never punishment. It was proof. Outside, Florence sleeps beneath the same moon that watched you leave. The city doesn't yet realize it's yours again. But soon it will. Every wall rebuilt, every artist sponsored, every coin that changes hands. They'll all carry your shadow. You blow out the candle. The smoke curls upward, soft as memory. Tomorrow the work begins anew. Florence greets you not with trumpets but with work. Hammers echo through the streets. Carpenters shout orders. Stone dust drifts through shafts of sunlight. The city feels alive again, busy, noisy, hungry. You stand in the courtyard of your palazzo and breathe in the scent of wet earth and lime. This is what victory smells like. Quiet, tangible, productive. Gold has begun to flow again. Not in rivers, but in steady streams, trickling through guilds and workshops, filling purses, reviving dreams. Florence, starved under the Albizzi, now drinks deeply from the wells you dug long ago. Do you hear it, listener? That faint hum beneath the city, the sound of faith turned into movement, of coins whispering back to their master? You rebuild carefully. Not palaces or monuments, but trust. You forgive old debts. Fund new ventures. A sculptor named Donatello requests marble for a strange bronze figure. A boy holding a sword, his smile soft, almost mocking. You agree without hesitation. Art, you realize, is another kind of credit. One that buys immortality. You meet with the guild leaders in a dim chamber smelling of ink and smoke. Their hands, rough from labor, tremble as they sign new contracts. They look at you not as a rival but as a foundation, something solid in a city built on change. You remember your father's words, power must be invisible to endure. And yet, invisibility is becoming harder each day. The Medici name now lives on every tongue. Painters seek your patronage. Priests seek your counsel. Even the Pope writes with warmth. You did not ask for a throne. But Florence, without meaning to, has placed one beneath you. Do you ever wonder, listener, how a man becomes a legend without lifting a sword? How he wins wars fought only in silence, through faith, numbers, and vision. At dusk, you walk the bridge over the Arno. The river glows like molten bronze, carrying reflections of churches and towers. Children play near the water's edge. Bells ring across the rooftops, one after another, like a chain of prayers. Florence feels different now, calmer, wiser, somehow older. And yet, beneath the calm, you sense the city's heartbeat, restless, ambitious, always reaching upward. Like you. You pass Brunelleschi in the street, his hands stained with dust, his eyes fixed on the sky. He speaks of the dome again, that impossible dream your father once doubted. This time you do not hesitate. Build it, you tell him. Let Florence touch heaven. He bows, and for the first time, you see what your family's gold can truly do. Not control. Not conquer. Create. Night falls. You return home and find a letter waiting on your desk. No seal, no signature. Just a line written in elegant script. You have turned exile into resurrection. You smile faintly. Some rival, some friend, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they see what you've built. A city reborn not through fear but through possibility. You pour yourself wine and sit by the window. The moonlight spills over the city like spilled silver. You think of your father again, of his belief in silence and shadows. You wonder what he'd think of this Florence, no longer hidden, no longer afraid. Would he scold you for showing too much? Or would he see what you see? That legacy is not about secrecy but about what survives? Outside, a choir sings in the distance. Their voices rise and fall like tides. You close your eyes and for a moment, the sound becomes one with the heartbeat of the city. Florence is breathing again. And in every breath there is a trace of your name. Do you feel it, listener? That quiet pulse, steady and golden? That's not gold returning to Florence. That's Florence returning to itself. You open a new ledger. At the top you write, "Prosperity is faith made visible." Then you seal it with wax, press your ring into the red and let it cool. Tomorrow the work will continue. Not with conquest but creation. The morning light over Florence feels different now. Purer, quieter, almost deliberate. You stand at the base of Santa Maria del Fiore, the unfinished cathedral your city has been building for a century. The dome looms above you, a promise still waiting to be fulfilled. Brunelleschi stands beside you, his eyes half mad, half divine. He speaks in gestures more than words, sketching invisible arches into the air, tracing circles that no wall could yet hold. Stone can float, he insists, voice trembling with conviction. You just have to teach it how. You smile. Because in Florence, faith is not what people pray for. It's what they build. The scaffolds rise like a forest of ribs. Men climb higher every day, their bodies small against the vast curve of the unfinished dome. Ropes creak. Hammers echo. Dust turns sunlight into mist. You look up, and for a moment, it feels like watching God being assembled. Do you feel it, listener? That mix of awe and doubt when a human dream dares to touch the impossible? That quiet question in your chest, can something this grand ever truly last? Every coin spent here is a prayer. Every beam of wood, every block of marble, every pulley and winch is faith made physical. And it all flows from your hand. Florence calls you Pater Patrii, father of the fatherland. You never asked for the title. You never wore a crown. But somehow the city has given you one anyway. When Brunelleschi's designs are challenged, you defend him. When the guilds complain of cost, you pay from your own purse. When the priests worry that the dome might collapse, you tell them softly, then let it collapse reaching for heaven rather than stay low fearing God. The work goes on for years. You grow older. Your beard turns silver, your hands slower. But the dome keeps rising brick by brick, a miracle taking shape in plain sight. One evening, Brunelleschi invites you to climb with him. You ascend the narrow staircase, the stone curving around you like the inside of a great shell. Your breath echoes. Your pulse beats in rhythm with the hammers below. At the top, the view steals your words. Florence stretches out beneath you, rooftops glowing like embers, the Arno glistening, bells ringing faintly from distant towers. The air tastes of dust and light. Do you see it? Brunelleschi asks. The city your gold built, the sky it's reaching for? You nod, but quietly. Because you understand something he doesn't. This dome is not yours. It belongs to Florence, to everyone who dared to believe. Your name will fade from ledgers someday, but this will still stand. Do you think about that, listener? How fragile our names are compared to the things they help create. How even the smallest act of faith might outlive the one who dreamed it. As the sun sinks, its light spills through the scaffolding, scattering halos across the walls. For a heartbeat, the city glows gold and red, like a living painting. You close your eyes. You hear your father's voice, build walls, not windows. And you realize you've done the opposite. You've built a window to heaven. That night, when you return home, Florence is silent. The workers have gone. The bells are still. You light a candle and open your father's old ledger. Beside his final entry, you write a new line. Faith can be measured in stone. Then you sit back and listen. Outside, the wind moves softly through the unfinished dome. It sounds like a breath, a whisper from something larger than yourself. Do you feel it too? That calm, that reverence? That sense that the world has paused just for a moment to admire what humans dared to do? Tomorrow they'll lay the final stones. The cathedral of heaven will stand complete. And Florence, reborn, will look upward. To the sky, to beauty, to the future. The dome is finished. And now the silence after it feels heavier than the work itself. Florence glows beneath its new crown, stone and sunlight woven together in perfect defiance of gravity. Everywhere you go, people speak your name with reverence, sometimes even awe. They call you Father of Florence, Patron of Heaven, Builder of Dreams. You smile politely, but inside you feel the quiet ache of distance. The closer you came to heaven, the further you drifted from peace. At dawn, you walk through the empty nave of Santa Maria del Fiore. The air is cool and still. Dust dances in the first rays of light. Each step echoes, a reminder that greatness always comes with loneliness. Do you feel that too, listener? That strange sadness after creation, when the dream has become real and reality feels smaller for it. Brunelleschi stands near the altar, gazing up. His hands tremble, but not from age, from awe. He doesn't notice you enter. His lips move as if praying, though to what even he might not know. Cosimo, he whispers when he finally sees you. It's finished. You nod slowly. Nothing built by men is ever finished. He smiles faintly. Then may it outlast us both. You look up at the dome, the ribs of stone rising toward the oculus, the sunlight pouring down like liquid gold. It feels eternal, but you know better. Everything collapses, eventually. Even faith, even names. You return home where ledgers wait, where clerks whisper of new loans, new alliances, new wars. The machinery of Florence never stops turning. But you, for the first time, want to rest. Do you ever wonder what happens when ambition runs out of places to go? When a lifetime of building leaves no room for living? You spend evenings in your garden now. The air smells of rosemary and rain. Birds nest in the olive trees your father once planted. Sometimes Lorenzo, your grandson, joins you chasing fireflies in the dusk. He asks questions you once asked your own father. Why do we build Nano? Why do we lend gold to everyone? You pause before answering. Because the world forgets, you say softly. And gold remembers. He doesn't understand yet, but one day he will. One day he'll inherit both the faith and the burden that come with your name. In the distance, you hear the bells of the cathedral, slow, solemn, patient. Each toll feels heavier than the last, as if the city itself is exhaling through stone. You remember the day your father died. How his hand felt light, almost transparent. Now yours feels the same. Time, like credit, always comes due. A messenger arrives from Rome, a papal seal, a request for another loan. You sign the letter without reading. Some part of you knows this dance will never end. But another part whispers that maybe it doesn't need to. You close the ledger, press your palm against its cover, and let your eyes rest. The paper feels warm from your touch. So many names, so many debts, so much trust. It's strange, isn't it? How money becomes memory. How legacy becomes its own kind of prayer. The sky outside darkens. The dome gleams faintly even in the night, as if lit from within. It's beautiful, too beautiful maybe, because beauty draws envy like flame draws moths. And you can already sense it. The jealousy, the murmurs, the plans forming in silk-draped rooms. The more Florence adores you, the more it will fear you. You whisper to the darkness, so be it. Let them fear what they cannot understand. Do you feel that calm resolve, listener? That moment when acceptance and pride become the same breath? You rise slowly, take one last look at the city from your balcony. The rooftops shimmer under moonlight. You can almost hear the heartbeat of Florence, steady, strong, grateful. And in that rhythm you hear yourself. The weight of heaven has settled on your shoulders, and you bear it the only way you know. Quietly, gracefully, without complaint. Tomorrow there will be more work. But tonight there is peace. The mornings come softer now. The bells no longer wake you with urgency, but with comfort. From your chamber window you can see the dome, your dome, catching the first light of day. Its curved surface glows pale gold, as if the sun itself pauses to remember your name. You sit beside the open window, wrapped in a simple cloak, listening to the city breathe. Florence hums like a distant song. Merchants setting up stalls, children calling to each other, church bells weaving through it all. The city is alive, more alive than ever, and that, you realize, is your true inheritance. Lorenzo kneels beside you, his hands small and curious. He traces the veins on your hand, the map of a life built in patience and quiet control. When I grow up, he whispers, I'll build something even bigger. You smile. Good. But remember, build it for Florence, not for yourself. Do you ever think about that, listener? How the greatest legacies are never really owned, only borrowed for a while. The doctors come and go. They whisper politely, avoid your eyes. You already know what they're trying not to say. You feel it in the way the air grows thicker, in the way the world feels slower around you. But you're not afraid. You've seen too many things crumble and rise again. You know that what endures is not stone or coin, but memory, trust, and faith. In the afternoon, you ask to be taken to the cathedral one last time. The streets are lined with faces, traders, artists, priests, beggars. They bow their heads as your carriage passes, not out of duty but out of love. Some even weep. You never asked for their devotion, but you earned it quietly, one act at a time. Inside the cathedral, the light filters through the oculus like liquid fire. It falls across the marble floor, across your face, warm and weightless. You look up, past the ribs of stone and the painted heavens above. You think of your father, of Brunelleschi, of all those who dared to believe Florence could touch eternity. Do you feel it, listener? That hush that falls when a dream has come true, and yet still feels unfinished? A priest approaches softly. Do you wish to confess, Signore Cosimo? You shake your head, smiling. There is nothing to confess, you say, only to thank. He bows and retreats. You rest your hand against the cold marble of a pillar and close your eyes. You whisper something too soft for anyone else to hear. Let this city never forget how to dream. The words hang in the air, weightless. A benediction, a farewell. Later that night, back in your chamber, the candle burns low. The ledger lies open beside you, its final page waiting. You take the quill with a steady hand and write the last line of your life. Faith built Florence. Love kept it standing. You seal the page with wax, press your ring into it, and the symbol of the Medici blooms one last time beneath your touch. Outside, the bells begin to toll for vespers. The sound drifts through the window like a lullaby. You lie back, watching the flicker of the flame, and let your thoughts dissolve into the rhythm of the city. Do you hear it, listener? The echo of centuries, gold coins, cathedral bells, the whisper of stone and wind? That's the sound of Florence remembering you. When morning comes, the light will rise over a city changed forever. And though you'll no longer walk its streets, every step, every stone, every dream that follows will still move in the pattern you left behind. The dome will gleam, the river will flow, and the name Medici will drift through time like a prayer. Not loud, not desperate, but eternal. Sleep now, Cosimo. Your city is awake. The dome still glows in the morning sun, and you can't remember a time when it didn't. You were born beneath its shadow, the child of a city that believes it can touch heaven. Florence feels eternal to you, but everyone around whispers the same name when they look at you. Lorenzo, the grandson of Cosimo, the blood of the banker who built a cathedral, the heir to a promise whispered in marble and gold. You walk through the courtyard of Palazzo Medici, the same one your grandfather once crossed at dawn. The stones remember his footsteps. The air smells faintly of ink, wax, and citrus from the garden. Your tutors wait by the fountain, scrolls open, their voices blending with the gentle splash of water. Latin, philosophy, mathematics, but it's the poetry that captures you. Words, your teacher says, are also currency. You smile because you understand already. Florence doesn't trade only in silk and gold. It trades in beauty. Do you feel it too, listener? That shimmer of creation, the sense that every breath could become art if you dared to shape it? You spend your afternoons wandering through workshops, where painters grind pigments and sculptors carve angels from blocks of rough stone. They greet you not as a prince, but as a friend. You ask questions they don't expect from a Medici heir. How do you know when marble is ready to be alive? How do you paint light that doesn't burn? One sculptor, a quiet man with dust in his hair, smiles and answers, "You don't. You just keep carving until it breathes." That night, you repeat the words to yourself like prayer. Until it breathes. Florence after dusk feels like a living painting. Lanterns glow along the Arno, and laughter drifts from the taverns where merchants drink and poets argue about paradise. You walk among them, hood drawn low, invisible in your own city. Feels good to listen, to blend in, to be no one for a while. In a quiet square, a musician plays the lute, and a small crowd gathers. The melody feels older than the stones, tender and infinite. You close your eyes. For a moment, you imagine your grandfather here, standing beside you, listening too. He built a city that could dream. You wonder if you're meant to keep it dreaming or wake it up. Do you ever think about that, listener? what it means to inherit a dream too large to hold. To love something that was already perfect before you arrived? Back at the palazzo, the corridors are quiet. Your mother, Lucrezia, waits in the study, reading letters by candlelight. She looks up, her face framed by gold and shadow. "You were walking alone again," she says. "People notice, Lorenzo." You shrug gently. "Let them notice." She sighs. "Your grandfather built power through silence. But you'll have to hold it in the open. The world has changed." You think of that as you lie awake later, staring at the ceiling painted with constellations. The world has changed. Florence is richer, louder, more alive than ever. But with wealth comes envy. With light comes shadow. The wind moves through the garden, carrying the scent of orange blossoms through your window. You close your eyes and picture the city, its domes, its bridges, its people. A heart made of stone and song. You feel its pulse, steady and familiar, beating with your own. Do you feel it too, listener? That quiet certainty that the future is already waiting for you, patient and bright? You whisper to the dark, "I will keep the light alive." Outside, the first stars blink awake over the Arno. Somewhere in the city, an artist lights a candle, a poet begins a verse, a craftsman sharpens his chisel. And Florence, your Florence, breathes again. Morning spills into Florence like honey. Soft light pours through narrow streets, touching the marble walls and red rooftops with quiet affection. You wake to its glow, the air sweet with the scent of orange blossoms and ink. It's a new day, but it feels timeless, like Florence herself is caught between dream and memory. You walk through the courtyard, past fountains whispering secrets, past sculptors at work. The sound of chisels is music here, each strike echoing like a heartbeat. Painters, poets, philosophers, they all come to you now, carrying ideas instead of petitions. They call you Lorenzo il Magnifico, though the name still feels strange on your tongue. You never asked to rule. You only wanted to understand what beauty could do to a soul. Do you feel it too, listener? That gentle ache when something is so beautiful it almost hurts? Florence is golden now. Not from wealth, but from wonder. Every wall holds a fresco, every square hums with laughter, every night glows with candlelight from hidden gardens where music drifts over the river. You sit with scholars in your villa outside the city. They read Plato beneath the olive trees, their voices soft, measured. Ideas pass between them like shared wine. Truth, love, eternity. You listen, eyes half closed, feeling the sun move across your skin. There is no difference between thought and prayer here. Both reach upward. When you ride through the city, children run beside your horse, shouting your name. You smile and toss coins into the crowd, not for charity but for joy, because Florence feels like a celebration that never ends. And yet, somewhere in that joy, you sense something delicate, fragile. Light this pure can't last forever. Do you ever think about that, listener? How even sunlight fades when you look at it too long. At night, you host gatherings in your palace courtyard. Musicians play, poets recite verses that seem to glow in the air, sculptors laugh with their hands still stained from marble dust. You watch them all and feel a quiet pride. Not for yourself, but for what Florence has become, a city that breathes art like air. Botticelli paints for you, his figures radiant, his lines soft as dreams. Poliziano writes sonnets in your honor, though you tell him not to. You'd rather he write for Florence. And yet, in their eyes, you've become something more than a patron. You've become a mirror for what they love most about their own creation. Sometimes, in the solitude of your study, you open your grandfather's ledger. The ink has faded, but the words remain, "Faith built Florence." You trace the letters with your finger and add a quiet thought beneath it. And beauty kept it alive. The candle flickers. Outside, the city murmurs like a living being, its river sighing, its bells marking time. You lean back in your chair, closing your eyes. The world has grown softer, fuller, more luminous. Even power feels less like control, more like music you conduct by listening. Do you hear it too? That soft harmony between stone and sky, between wealth and wisdom, between silence and song? It's the sound of a city that has learned to dream out loud. You whisper to the night, "Let Florence never wake." And the wind carries your words beyond the dome, past the hills into the stars. The golden city glows quietly, not blazing but breathing, like a candle that knows it was made to burn, and to be remembered for its light. The banquet hall glows with hundreds of candles. The air smells of honey, roasted figs, and ambition. You sit at the center of the table, surrounded by laughter so smooth it could be mistaken for music. Florence's finest, bankers, poets, cardinals, and merchants, raise their cups to you, the man they call Lorenzo il Magnifico. Their voices echo through the marble hall, gilded and warm. But beneath the laughter, something hums. A quiet dissonance you can feel in your bones. Do you hear it too, listener? That faint tension beneath the music, the moment when admiration turns to envy? At your right sits Archbishop Salviati, his rings catching the candlelight. He speaks softly, but his words coil like vines. Florence prospers under your hand, my lord. The church gives thanks. You smile politely, sip your wine. Florence always prospers, until someone decides it shouldn't. Across from you, a young poet recites verses written in your honor. His voice trembles slightly, unsure whether to look at you or the cardinals who watch him. When he finishes, the hall erupts in applause, but you see the poet's eyes dart toward your cousin Giuliano, laughing too loudly, too freely. You know what they see, two brothers who rule through charm and gold. One admired, one envied. It's a dangerous symmetry. You lift your cup and say, to Florence, may she always be free in spirit and in song. The crowd echoes your words, but the sound feels hollow, as if no one believes in freedom tonight. You study the faces around the table. Every smile has edges. Every toast hides a blade. And yet, you love them all, because this is Florence. This is what power looks like when dressed in velvet. Do you ever wonder, listener, what it feels like to dine among ghosts who are still alive? To know that beneath the silk and perfume, everyone here is starving for the same thing, importance? Later, musicians begin to play. The room softens. Giuliano leans close, whispering, brother, sometimes I think we've built a city of mirrors. Everyone sees only themselves. You answer quietly, then let them see beauty. That's enough. He smiles, but his eyes are distant. He's too young to understand that beauty, too, can become a weapon. As the night deepens, the guests drift toward the courtyard. The air outside is cooler, fragrant with orange blossoms and smoke. From the terrace, you watch the dome glow under moonlight, the same dome your grandfather built, the same faith turned into stone. It feels eternal. It isn't. The archbishop approaches again, bowing just enough to suggest respect, not surrender. There are whispers, my lord, he says softly. In Rome, some find your influence unsettling. You turn toward him, calm. Rome has always been unsettled, you reply. That's why it leans on Florence. He smiles, but his eyes remain cold. Even pillars can crack. You don't answer. The conversation ends with a silence sharper than any argument. Do you feel that, listener? That fragile line between praise and threat, between loyalty and fear? It's the music every ruler learns to dance to. Inside, the laughter grows louder again, trying to drown the unease. You return to your seat, raise your cup once more. The hall flickers in gold light, faces glowing, shadows dancing along the walls like silent conspirators. You drink, not to celebrate, but to remember. That power, like wine, is sweetest right before it turns bitter. As the last song fades, you close your eyes for a moment and listen. Not to the applause, not to the words, but to the heartbeat beneath them all. Florence is breathing, restless, radiant, and fragile. And somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls. Not for prayer. For warning. The dawn that follows the feast feels too quiet. Florence lies beneath a pale sky, the Arno glimmering like a blade drawn halfway from its sheath. You walk through the courtyard of the Medici Palace, the echo of last night's music still haunting the marble. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell tolls for morning prayer, slow, deliberate, as if measuring time itself. You pause beneath an archway and listen. The pigeons coo, the servants whisper, the city stirs awake. Yet the air feels heavier than usual, as though something unseen presses down on it. It's strange how silence can carry so much sound, isn't it? As if Florence herself were holding her breath. Inside the chapel, light filters through stained glass, painting your hands in crimson and gold. Giuliano kneels at the altar, murmuring a prayer you can't quite hear. You watch him for a moment, the curve of his shoulders, the unguarded peace in his face. He still believes faith can protect him. You no longer do. When you were younger, you thought God favored the clever, the brave, the ones who built beauty out of chaos. Now you know better. God favors no one. He only watches quietly as men make their bargains beneath his cross. Do you ever wonder, listener, how much faith a ruler must fake to keep a city calm? How often a prayer is spoken, not out of devotion but as a disguise? As you step back into the courtyard, a messenger approaches, breathless, pale, eyes darting. He bows and delivers a sealed letter. The wax bears a mark you don't recognize immediately, but the tone inside is unmistakable. Rome. The words are polite, wrapped in scripture, but the meaning is sharp. The Holy Father grows concerned with Florence's pride. You fold the letter slowly, tucking it inside your robe. The church is watching again. And when Rome watches, it's never only to admire. Later that morning, your advisor Poliziano joins you by the balcony. He's holding a small notebook, scribbling verses that will never see daylight. He says, "There are new faces at Mass lately. Men who pray with daggers under their cloaks." You nod, neither surprised nor afraid. Florence has always been a city of masks. Do you feel it too, listener? That faint trembling beneath the marble streets? It's not an earthquake. It's the weight of intentions, shifting, gathering, waiting. By evening, the streets are full of procession. Holy Week approaches. The churches are draped in purple cloth, candles flicker behind narrow windows, and voices rise in slow chants that echo through the alleys. From your balcony, the sound feels less like worship and more like warning. You can't see the faces beneath the hoods, only the movement, dark shapes weaving through light like thoughts you can't quite catch. Giuliano joins you, his mood light. He speaks of the games planned for the cathedral square, of the poets and musicians who will perform. You listen, but your thoughts are elsewhere, on the Archbishop, on Rome, on the whispers that trail your family name like smoke. "Brother," Giuliano says, noticing your silence, "you look like you've seen a ghost." You smile faintly. "Not yet," you say, "but I think one is coming." He laughs, brushing off your words, and leaves you with the fading light. The bells begin again, softer this time, but closer. The cross atop the Duomo glints red as the sun sinks behind it. And in that moment, you realize how fragile it all is. The city, the faith, the illusion of peace. You whisper a prayer anyway. Not for protection, not even for forgiveness. Just for clarity. Because you can feel it now. The shadow stretching from Rome to Florence, crossing every alley, every chapel, every heart that beats for or against you. The shadow of the cross. And as the first stars appear, you understand what your grandfather meant when he said, "The higher you build, the longer the shadows grow." The morning arrives draped in gold and silence. Florence wakes beneath a sky so bright it almost feels like mercy. The streets hum with expectation. Priests in white robes, children clutching olive branches, the air thick with incense and murmured prayer. You move slowly through the crowd toward Santa Maria del Fiore, the cathedral your family helped raise from stone and dream. Inside, the air is cool, fragrant, and heavy with devotion. Sunlight filters through the stained glass like liquid fire. You kneel beside your brother Giuliano, and for a fleeting moment, it feels like peace. But peace, you've learned, is often a pause before thunder. The choir begins its hymn, Gloria in Excelsis Deo, voices rising until they seem to lift the very dome above you. You bow your head, lips moving out of habit more than faith. Across the nave, the Archbishop of Pisa watches you too long, his smile too still. He raises his hand in blessing, and the gesture feels more like a signal than a prayer. Do you feel it, listener? That shift in the air, as if the cathedral itself is holding its breath? How beauty can become unbearable when it stands too close to violence. Giuliano leans toward you, whispering, "After Mass, I promised Simonetta I'd bring her flowers." You almost smile. He still speaks of love like it's invincible. You envy that. You remember believing the same thing once, before you learned that every heart has a price, and every faith can be purchased if the offer is good enough. The priest lifts the host, his voice steady. The congregation kneels. For a moment, the world seems still, suspended in light. Then it happens. A sudden movement, a flash of steel, a gasp swallowed by song. Giuliano turns, confusion in his eyes before it becomes pain. You hear the sound of fabric tearing, of breath cut short. A scream echoes, then another. The choir falters but doesn't stop. It takes them a heartbeat too long to understand that the hymn has become a dirge. You rise, reaching for him, your hand catching crimson instead of cloth. The scent of blood floods the air, sharp against the incense. Men shout, blades glint, the crowd surges. You stumble back, heart hammering, eyes searching through chaos for the faces behind it, the familiar, the trusted. You see Salviati. You see Francesco de Puzzi. And suddenly every smile from the last feast burns in your memory like a brand. Do you ever wonder, listener, how betrayal sounds in a sacred place? It doesn't roar. It whispers. It sounds like prayer interrupted. Hands grab you, dragging you toward the altar, away from your brother's fallen form. Blood spreads across the marble floor like spilled wine, running toward the steps, staining the hem of the priest's robe. Someone shouts your name, not in reverence but warning. You turn, catching sight of the cross above the altar. Its gold gleams red in the candlelight. You don't know whether to call on God or curse him. Instead, you do what you've always done. You act. You push past the panic, through the crowd, through the smoke of burning incense that now smells like ash. Outside, bells begin to toll, not for mass, not for joy, but for blood. You run. Not away, but toward your palace, toward vengeance, toward survival. Because Florence, your Florence, has just been baptized again. Not in holy water, but in the blood of your brother. And somewhere behind you, in the cathedral that once stood for peace, the hymn finally ends. The silence that follows is heavier than any prayer. The bells do not stop. They ring through every street, every alley, every waking dream of Florence. You stand in the courtyard of your palace, Giuliano's blood still drying on your sleeves, and listen to the sound of panic ripple outward. It's not morning yet, it's confusion, fear, and something darker. The kind of silence between bells when the city decides whether to kneel or to rise. The guards rush in with wild eyes, shouting about mobs near the cathedral, about men hanging from windows, about vengeance. They look to you for orders, but you say nothing at first, because words feel too small for what has just been taken. You walk slowly to the fountain in the center of the courtyard. Its water glitters in the morning light, clean, indifferent. You dip your hands into it, washing away the red, but it clings beneath your nails like memory itself. Do you ever wonder, listener, how grief smells? Not flowers or tears, but iron, smoke, and fear. Poliziano arrives, breathless, a smear of ink on his cuff where he must have grabbed his pen mid-sentence. The Puzzi are finished, he says. The people are turning against them. The crowd is already at their doors. He's right. Even now, from beyond the palace walls, you hear the roar, not of grief but of fury. Florence, wounded, has found her enemy. And in this moment you could unleash her completely. But you don't. Not yet. You climb to the balcony overlooking the square. The crowd below is a sea of faces, eyes lifted toward you. Some cry your name. Others cry Giuliano's. A few just cry. You raise your hand and the noise falters just enough for your voice to carry. My brother, you say softly, was murdered in God's house. They thought to kill 2 sons of Florence and rule her in our place. But they forgot something. Florence does not belong to the Puzzi. She belongs to her people. The crowd erupts again, this time with a sound that feels older than language, a promise of vengeance. You watch them surge toward the streets, toward the homes of traitors, toward blood. And for a heartbeat you let it happen. Because the city needs to remember what loyalty cost. But then you close your eyes. You see Giuliano's face again. Not in death, but in laughter, beneath the olive trees. You would not have wanted this. He believed in beauty, in love, and mercy. You, who must live without him, have to carry all 3, even when mercy feels like weakness. Do you think forgiveness can exist beside justice, listener? Or does one always devour the other? By nightfall, Florence burns in fragments. Fires light the river's edge, smoke rising over the domes. The Puzzi conspirators hang from the windows of the Palazzo Vecchio, their shadows swaying like pennants. The bells keep ringing, slower now, heavier, less alarm, more requiem. Inside you sit alone. The city you built with art and patience now trembles under your hand. You wonder if this is what power truly is. Not creation, not beauty, but control over ruin. Every decision now weighs more than gold, heavier than sin. You take a candle and walk to the chapel. The marble is still stained where your brother fell. You kneel beside the mark, tracing it with your thumb. No prayer comes. Only a whisper, "You are avenged, but I am undone." Outside, the night wind moves through the city like a ghost, touching every window, every wound. Florence sleeps fitfully, dreaming of vengeance and salvation, of beauty and blood. And as the last bell tolls, you understand, the tremor shaking the city is not fear. It is change. The kind that reshapes everything it touches. The kind that leaves no man, not even you, untouched. Morning rises over a city that no longer recognizes itself. Florence is quieter now. The shouts have faded, the fires have died, and smoke drifts lazily above rooftops like ghosts that have forgotten their purpose. You stand at the window of the Palazzo Medici, watching the sun stain the sky with pale gold, a color too gentle for what has been done. Below, the square is empty except for the gallows. They sway slightly in the wind, creaking like old wood whispering confessions. The bodies are gone, but their shadows remain, etched into stone by memory and shame. Just as they called it. But to you it feels more like hunger sated, not healed. Do you ever wonder, listener, what peace costs when it's bought with fear? The council meets in the great hall that afternoon. Men you've known for years, merchants, scholars, priests, sit before you, their faces pale and deferential. None of them will meet your eyes. Not after what happened in the cathedral. Not after the executions. They speak of rebuilding order, of restoring confidence, of honoring your leadership. Their words are smooth, practiced. But beneath the surface, you hear the truth. Florence is yours now, not by love, but by necessity. And necessity is a colder kind of loyalty. Poliziano stands behind you, silent, watching the room with cautious eyes. When the meeting ends, he says softly, "They fear you, Lorenzo." You turn toward him. "Then let them," you reply. Fear keeps the city standing. He nods, but his gaze lingers, uneasy. You walk alone through the palace corridors afterward, past frescoes of saints and gods. Their painted eyes follow you, pitying, perhaps, or warning. Your steps echo softly against the marble, the same marble that once felt alive with music and laughter. Now it sounds hollow, like walking inside your own reflection. Do you feel that too, listener? That strange stillness after a storm, when everything looks the same but nothing is. You pass the study where Giuliano used to read by the window. His chair is still there. A thin layer of dust rests on the armrest where his fingers once tapped to the rhythm of half-finished songs. You reach out, brush it away. Feels like erasing time. Outside, Florence is rebuilding. Stonemasons repair broken steps, merchants reopen their stalls, and children chase each other through the piazza as if blood were never spilled there. The city heals quickly on the surface, but the cracks remain underneath, in whispered conversations, in prayers spoken too softly, in the way people bow lower now when they pass you. The republic they once boasted of, a city of free citizens, is gone, replaced by something quieter, more obedient. And you, who never wanted a throne, have become its ruler. Not by election, not by ambition, but by survival. Do you ever think power chooses its own vessels? That sometimes it crowns those who tried hardest to refuse it? At dusk, you ride through the streets with only a few guards. The air smells of rain, and the stones glisten as if freshly washed. People stop to watch you pass, not cheering, not cursing, only watching. Their faces are unreadable. You realize they're not looking at Lorenzo the man anymore. They're looking at Lorenzo the idea. And ideas, once born, are impossible to kill. When night falls, you sit alone in your study. A single candle burns beside a map of Florence. Your hand traces the river's curve, the bridges, the narrow streets, the places where laughter used to echo. Every inch of the city feels both yours and beyond your reach. You whisper to the darkness, "Let her forgive me." You're not sure if you mean Florence or God. Maybe both. Outside, thunder rolls softly over the hills, distant, uncertain, like a warning yet to take shape. You close your eyes, and for the first time since the cathedral, you let yourself feel it all. The grief, the guilt, the weight of being needed by a city that may never love you again. Florence sleeps. You don't. Because power doesn't rest. It only waits quietly for its next test. Weeks pass, and Florence begins to breathe again. The markets hum softly. Painters return to their studios. The bells ring for mass, not for death. And yet, beneath it all, something feels different, as though the city's pulse beats slower, cautious, remembering. You spend your mornings in the library your grandfather built, where sunlight pools on the floor like spilled gold. Scrolls line the walls, Greek and Latin voices whispering through centuries. You used to come here for curiosity. Now you come for refuge. You trace the faded spine of a manuscript, Plato translated by Ficino. The pages smell of dust and thought. You open it to a line you know by heart. The soul, once awakened, longs only to return to beauty. You whisper it aloud, tasting the words like a prayer. Perhaps that's all faith ever was, the search for beauty that cannot be owned. Do Do you ever think, listener, that knowledge can heal what power wounds? Ficino arrives at noon, robes sweeping softly against the stone floor. He bows, not out of formality but affection. "My lord," he says, "Florence still listens to your silence. You should speak again." You smile faintly. "And say what, Marsilio?" "That the gods sleep and men have taken their place." He looks at you with the patience of a scholar who has watched too many kings misunderstand eternity. "No," he replies, "say that the city's heart still beats in words and art. Remind them what they were before they learned to fear." So you do. You reopen your patronage of poets and painters, summon philosophers to debate beneath the orange trees, commission new frescoes that tell stories of mercy instead of triumph. And slowly, Florence begins to soften again. The same people who once trembled before you now approach with cautious gratitude. They call you Lorenzo the Magnificent, but you know better. Magnificence is only what time allows the guilty to become. Do you feel that paradox, listener? How the same hands that punish can also create. How the same voice that condemned can bless. One evening, Poliziano brings you a poem, verses about love surviving ruin. He reads it aloud while the last light of day stains the courtyard red. For a moment, you forget the blood, the betrayals, the weight of rule. You are only a man listening to music made of words. You close your eyes and imagine Giuliano smiling somewhere, free of this world's demands. The poets call you a prince of letters now. You fund their dreams, protect their manuscripts, preserve their names. But the truth is simpler. You are not saving them. You are saving yourself, piece by piece, verse by verse. Do you think art remembers mercy, listener? Or does it only immortalize the beautiful parts of pain? At night, you walk through the gardens. The fountains murmur softly, the statues gleam under moonlight. Somewhere in the distance, a lute plays, gentle and uncertain. The scent of jasmine clings to the air, almost enough to make you believe the world is still whole. You stop beneath a cypress tree and look toward the city. The domes and towers glow faintly, silver against the dark. Florence, the living poem, the fragile miracle, still stands. And you, for all your sins and wisdom, have become both her ruler and her servant. You whisper to the night, let her remember the beauty, not the blood. The wind carries your words toward the Arno, toward the hills beyond. Some prayers, you realize, are not meant to be answered. They are meant to be spoken softly so the heart does not forget how. The years pass quietly, almost mercifully. Florence gleams again, her streets swept clean, her markets full, her artists painting heaven on plaster. From the outside it looks like peace. But peace, you've learned, is only the calm between debts. You sit in your study, letters from Rome spread across your desk like pale wings. The Pope wants gold. Naples wants alliance. Venice wants trade. Everyone wants something, and Florence can no longer give as much as it once did. The coffers that once overflowed with Medici wealth now echo faintly when opened. Poliziano tells you not to worry, that prestige can buy time. But prestige cannot feed a city. It cannot pay soldiers or silence Rome's envy. It cannot heal the exhaustion that creeps through your bones like winter. Do you ever feel it too, listener? That quiet decay hidden beneath success? How beauty, left unattended, begins to crack like old marble. You still walk through the workshops, watch the apprentices grind pigment, smell the oil and dust. It comforts you, the rhythm of creation. But you notice fewer hands at work now. Some have left for Milan, some for Venice, chasing patrons who pay in coin rather than promise. Florence remains magnificent in name, but the gold leaf is thinning. At night, you summon Ficino to read from Plato, hoping philosophy can soothe what medicine cannot. He speaks of the soul's immortality, of harmony between heaven and earth. You listen, half dreaming, half fading. His words drift through you like smoke through glass. You want to believe them. You want to believe that the city, like the soul, cannot die. Outside, the Arno glimmers, reflecting torchlight from passing boats. The merchants whisper that trade is slowing. The bankers whisper that Rome plots again. Even your allies begin to look elsewhere. It's not hatred, just calculation. The same kind of calculation your ancestors once mastered. Do you ever wonder, listener, if the world simply moves on when it's done needing us? You've always been a man of reason, but lately dreams come more often. You see Giuliano walking through the cathedral, his steps silent, his face unmarked. He turns to you, smiles, and says, "It's time to rest." You wake with your pulse slow, your breath heavy, and for the first time you almost agree. Florence continues her rituals, weddings, feasts, festivals. The people still cheer your name in the square, though their cheers sound softer now, like echoes more than voices. You know they don't cheer out of love anymore. They cheer because they remember what silence cost them. You walk through the Medici gardens at sunset. The statues cast long shadows across the gravel, stretching like memories that refuse to fade. Each step feels heavier, slower. Your physician calls it fatigue. You know better. It's the weight of years, the slow bending of a life spent holding a city upright. Do you think, listener, that even greatness can grow tired? That a soul, no matter how brilliant, eventually wants only to rest in its own silence? You pause by the fountain where orange petals drift on the water. Once this place was filled with laughter, poets, lovers, musicians. Now only the wind answers you. You whisper to the night, if this is decline, let it be gentle. The city glows below, unaware that its prince grows weaker each day. The bells still ring, the artists still paint, but somewhere beneath the surface, something falters. Not a collapse, not yet, just the first, almost beautiful tremor of an ending. Spring arrives early that year. The air smells of rain and orange blossoms, the hills beyond Florence soft with green. You sit by the open window of your villa at Careggi, wrapped in a shawl though the day is warm. The physicians whisper about your condition in hallways, using words like weakness and melancholy. But you know what it is. It's time, patient, inevitable, and finally kind. The birds sing from the cypress trees. The same melody you heard as a boy when the world still felt wide. Below, in the garden, young artists paint the first tulips of the season. You watch their brushes move, steady and bright. It comforts you to know creation continues, even as your own strength fades. Do you ever wonder, listener, what it feels like to watch your city bloom while your body wilts? It's not sadness exactly, more like gratitude tinged with distance. Ficino visits each morning, bringing books and quiet conversation. He reads from Plato again, though his voice breaks when he reaches the word immortality. You smile and stop him gently. Don't speak of eternity, Marsilio. Speak of beauty. That's the only kind of forever I ever trusted. In the afternoons, Poliziano brings letters from Florence. Petitions, reports, news of trade and taxes. You read them slowly, tracing the familiar names. The Wool Guild, the Cathedral, the studio of Botticelli. Everything you built still breathes. The city lives. It no longer needs your hand to guide it. Sometimes, when the pain quiets, you walk through the garden with your daughter. She asks if the statues will ever speak. You tell her they already do, just not in words. Listen, you say, and together you stand among marble and wind until the silence becomes music. Do you hear it too, listener? That stillness between heartbeats, where everything seems both finished and infinite. At sunset, the air turns golden, almost holy. You sit beneath an olive tree, the same kind your grandfather once planted. The light slips across your hands like water. You close your eyes and remember. The laughter in the courtyards, the sound of chisels and marble, Giuliano's smile, the cathedral bells. It all folds together into one long breath. A messenger arrives from Florence, bearing a small box. Inside lies a painting, a Madonna with eyes that seem alive. Botticelli's gift. You touch the edge of the frame, whisper, "You've captured her." The grace that never fades. Then you realize what he's truly captured, not divinity but memory. And memory, you think, is the soul's way of refusing to die. The evening wind rises. You feel it move through the curtains, gentle as a hand. For the first time in years, you do not think of politics or money or Rome. You think of Florence, the city that loved, betrayed, and outlived you. You wonder if she will remember your faults or only your gifts. But then you smile. She will remember both. That's what makes her real. Do you believe, listener, that beauty forgives the hands that create it? You hope so. As night deepens, Ficino lights a candle beside your bed. Its flame trembles but doesn't die. He begins to read, softly, "The soul, once freed from the body, seeks the light that is its origin." You listen until the words fade into the rhythm of your breathing. The candle flickers one last time and the window curtains stir. Outside, the city sleeps under stars you can no longer see. The bells of Florence ring in the distance, slow, low, and tender. Their echo carries through the hills, through the garden, through the room where you rest. And then, like all great things, you become part of the silence that once surrounded you. The bells toll through the valley at dawn. Their sound rolls over the Arno, over rooftops and gardens, over a city that wakes to find itself newly orphaned. Lorenzo de Medici, Il Magnifico, is gone. And Florence, for the first time in a generation, stands without its compass. The streets are filled with quiet faces. No riots, no cheers, only the murmur of disbelief. Even those who feared you mourn you now. Because power, when softened by grace, becomes something rarer, memory. Do you ever wonder, listener, how a city mourns a soul? Not with tears, but with silence. A silence that seeps into every stone you once touched. The Palazzo Medici is draped in black cloth. Inside, candles flicker along the corridors, their smoke curling toward the painted ceilings you commissioned. Poliziano walks through the hall alone, fingers brushing the frescoes. He stops beneath a portrait of you, young, smiling faintly, eyes full of purpose. He whispers, "You gave us beauty. What will we give back now?" In the churches, priests speak your name carefully, as though unsure whether to praise or to forgive. The people light candles in your memory not because they understand politics or art, but because they feel the loss of light. Florence glows that night, not in celebration but in gratitude. Days turn into weeks. Without your hand, the council wavers. The merchants argue, the bankers hesitate, and the old rivalries you kept at bay begin to stir again. Rome watches. Naples waits. The balance you maintain through wit and will begins to tilt, slowly like a table missing one leg. Do you feel it too, listener? How quickly harmony unravels when the conductor leaves the stage. Ficino delivers the eulogy at San Lorenzo. He speaks not of wealth or power, but of soul. He says, he loved beauty because he saw in it the face of the divine. The congregation listens in stillness, some with heads bowed, some with eyes open, fixed on the light falling through the stained glass. When the final amen fades, it feels as though the city itself exhales. That evening, the artists gather in your garden. Botticelli, Ghirlandaio, Verrocchio's pupils. They talk quietly, each recalling a moment, a word, a commission that changed their lives. They will go on painting, but something in their colors will shift. Softer now, more human, tinged with mourning. You are gone, but your eye remains in theirs. Do you believe, listener, that legacy is just what we leave behind? Or is it what others continue to see because we once taught them how? As spring deepens, Florence blooms again. The markets reopen, the river carries trade, the workshops hum. Life resumes, it always does. But beneath every joy lies an absence too wide to name. They still call you magnificent, though the word now sounds more like a prayer than a title. At dusk, a group of children run through the square, chasing each other's laughter. One stops, points toward the cathedral dome and says, "That's where Lorenzo used to stand." The others nod, though none of them ever saw you. Stories, it seems, travel faster than time. Florence will go on, wounded, wise, and watchful. She has lost her prince, but not her reflection. For somewhere in the quiet between bells, your voice still lingers. Soft, steady, reminding her what beauty once meant. And if cities dream, then Florence dreams of you. Not as a ruler, not even as a savior, but as the heartbeat she once learned to keep time with. Centuries pass, and yet the city still breathes. Florence endures, not as it was, but as it remembers. The river still winds through her heart, the same Arno that once carried whispers of trade and revolution. The same light still spills over terracotta roofs, softening the scars of time. And somewhere, in the hush between footsteps on the Ponte Vecchio, your name still lingers, not shouted, but murmured, like a prayer the stones have learned to say on their own. Visitors come from far places now. They stand in front of frescoes you commissioned, walk through gardens you planted, sit in chapels where your laughter once echoed. They do not know your story, not entirely, but they feel it. Because beauty, when made with sincerity, leaves fingerprints too deep for history to erase. Do you ever think, listener, that places remember us better than people do? That the air itself carries memory long after the living forget? Botticelli's paintings still hang in quiet rooms, angels with eyes that seem to know loss. Ficino's words survive in manuscripts touched by a dozen hands. Poliziano's verses still breathe when read aloud in the right light. And the cathedral dome still reigns over the skyline, a promise of what faith and will can build together. Florence remains a city that believes in its own soul. But not all monuments are made of stone. Some live in the rhythm of the streets, in the hum of workshops, in the way sunlight touches marble at dusk. Every brushstroke, every column, every echo is part of your ghost, Not haunting, not demanding, just watching, guiding. Do you feel it too, listener? That strange comfort in knowing that nothing truly ends, it only changes form? Students, read your letters now, studying your alliances, your patronage, your mistakes. They call you statesman, banker, philosopher, prince. They argue about whether you saved or corrupted your city. But the truth is simpler, older. You loved Florence enough to make her immortal, and in return she made you eternal. Even the wind seems gentler here, as if afraid to disturb what still belongs to you. The bells ring each evening, slower now, deeper. Their tones drift across centuries, a lullaby for memory itself. When the last light fades over the Arno, the city glows, not from fire or gold, but from presence. You can almost hear it. The laughter in the courtyards, the echo of chisels, the murmur of poets beneath orange trees. They all blend into one endless breath, Florence breathing through time. Do you hear it, listener? That heartbeat beneath the silence? That's the sound of a city that learned from a man how to turn ambition into art. And so the story ends not with death but with endurance. The prince is gone, yet his dream remains. The stones remember, the river remembers, and the night, soft, endless, forgiving, carries his name gently through the centuries. Sleep now as Florence sleeps. Let the bells fade into distance, the echoes into peace. For beauty never dies. It only rests, waiting for another dawn.